I went on a walk this morning and I had insights and I scribbled them down and I'm going to share them later, but one of the insights that I was left with was this idea that even if you're unhappy with your life, even if you can see how things would have been better, you could imagine it's possible. An argument could be made that it's the ideal life for some higher purpose. Not an ego purpose of like, I'm going to be able to serve people better, or I'm going to appreciate my life more, or I learned lessons that can make me more effective. No, I'm talking about something on a much more subtle, that we can't even possibly understand. That's one insight that came to me. So the question is, upon leaving this nature hike and these insights, where the insights came, I drew a card, and the card I got was Seven of Swords. If you're familiar with this card, the person is clearly sneaking off with Five of the Swords. Two remain. Now the two are on the right, and as we know in the Tree of Life, the two is the sphere on the right, creativity, wisdom. And we know that the sphere 7 is about the individual, at least in our interpretation of Hermetic Kabbalah, about the individual. So, and he's stealing the swords from the group, or taking the wisdom from the walk, moving toward limits on the other side of the Tree of Life. It's moving to the left side of the Tree of Life as we face it. And so there are limits to sphere 7. There are limits to what we can do with our own will. And insights are extremely powerful. They can start a war or end a war. They could cause suffering or remove it, or at least to reduce it. And his pants are blue, the color that we associate with the static, with the limits. But the feet are red, the act of moving out of sphere 7 into the blue, into the restriction of sphere 5. And so the enemy is left with two swords. The enemy can still fight. Our life can still produce negative outcomes, and the question, could it be serving a higher purpose, isn't to force that there is a higher purpose or figure out that higher purpose, which many people do, and God bless them, they're happy for it. But this is a little more subtle, again, a little more humble. It's just saying there could be. So I leave the polarity, I leave the two swords in the place where sphere 7 is, to have the negative adaptive child or negative free child trying to influence where I go, what I do, whether I adhere to the group obligations and expectations or defy them or seek to conquer the group. That's still going to be there. But as I enter the realm of limits, the realm of sphere 5 with creativity, I can ask this question: is it possible that this setback, or this limitation, or this guilt, or this regret, or this less than optimal outcome, or this lack of happiness and peace, or this, what is an apparent regression, lack of progress, could all of that be serving a higher purpose? Just putting it out there, it might be serving a higher purpose. And what might that higher purpose be? Well, as we mentioned, the vow of obedience, as we define it, is first to humbly appreciate not knowing. Earlier I used to say acknowledge or allow or accept, but I'm saying appreciate it, because if you knew everything, life would be really boring. So to humbly appreciate not knowing how to make the future better. That's the call, the dawn, the spring, the trial, the summer, day. What is stopping me from making this moment be about this moment? MTM, ATM. Sometimes most of the time, we just can't make this moment be about this moment. We always have some past or future or image-based conditional self-love. And that comes from the prior return, prior fall, the prior sunset or dusk, not having unconditional self-acceptance, USA, or unconditional positive self-regard, UPSR. And so it's a sign that if we can't make this moment about this moment, that we want to, and that we're invited to, find that unconditional self-acceptance before we enter the bardo, before we are severed from space and time. And so with this card, we are just leaving a little bit on the table, a little bit of understanding that if there's going to be balance, if there's going to be sphere 6, there's got to be the existence of, at least in our past, ideally not in our future, but probably for most of us in our future, excessive sphere 7, excessive sphere 8, excessive negative free child, at least the impulse, if not the action, excessive negative adaptive child, at least the impulse, not the action. And with this understanding of sphere 8 and negative adaptive child, then the idea of the neurotic effects, potentially neurotic effects of psilocybin can be understood, even in microdosing, because your greater empathy, as filtered through sphere 8 and the negative adaptive child, is a fear of what other people think of you, or a need to modify how they're feeling themselves. That's the enmeshment. That's the static quality. We see it in static feminine, and we see it in static masculine. Gareth Hill. And the opposite extreme is not caring what people think. Dynamic masculine, dynamic feminine, and negative free child and positive free child. Just that's dynamic, that's movement, that's freedom. You don't care. It could be positive, it could be negative. But we're trying to bring balance to both of those. And so the way we find the balance, just like when you're directing a ship to the true north, is you see when you're veering a little bit to the east, to the right side of the tree, a little bit to the west, to the left side of the tree. That's how your course gets corrected. That's how you set a course. You follow the North Star and you see when you're off. And if we understand that, at least even on a subtle level open to that it may have some really deep cosmic truth, then we can be like this guy carrying the red hat, right? That dynamic hat, sneaking off, reducing the likelihood that the enemy is going to cause damage, but not removing it completely. Because we still understand that that fight, that conflict with the enemy, that conflict between negative adaptive child, negative free child, sphere 8 and sphere 7 may be serving a higher purpose, guiding us towards sphere 6, and then eventually back to sphere 1.